All right, welcome. Today we are going on a journey, but not just across a map. We're going to dive into the names and the big ideas behind some of the world's most incredible landmarks. You'll see how a simple list of places can actually tell us a much bigger story about what we as humans really value and, how we see our place in the world. So let's jump right in. So let's start with this big question right here. Because, when you look at a list of places like, say, the Great Wall or the Grand Canyon, you're not just learning geography, right? It's so much more than that. You're actually reading a story about what different societies chose to remember, our relationship with the natural world, how we define power, and our endless search for beauty.
And you know what? That story, it begins way before we ever built a single thing. It starts with the Earth itself. So for our first section, we're going to look at the planet's own architecture. These are the masterpieces sculpted not by us, but by the raw forces of nature.
Think about it. The very first artists on this planet were the elements themselves. For millions and millions of years, the just relentless power of water and wind has been carving, shaping, and building the world's very first wonders.
And this is a perfect example of how water works its magic in totally different ways. First, you've got the Grand Canyon, which in Mandarin is Dash Sagu, literally Great Gorge. I mean, it's perfect, right? A river just patiently carving this massive chasm. Then you have the total opposite, the explosive, raw power of Niagara Falls. And finally, something completely different again, the calm, almost mystical beauty of Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. Its name means descending dragon. So cool. Each name really captures a totally different side of nature's power.
Okay, so we've seen these incredible features that were carved out of the earth. Now let's flip that idea and look at the silent giants that rise dramatically from it. We're talking about a whole different kind of monument here. What's so cool about these giants is just how different they all are. You've got Mount Fuji in Japan, this perfectly shaped sacred symbol. Then there's the Great Barrier Reef, a living giant. The Mandarin name Da Bao Jiao just means Great Barrier Reef, which is a pretty spot-on description of what it does. And then you have Uluru in Australia, a single enormous rock that's the spiritual heart for its indigenous people. So you've got these giants of fire, of life, and of stone. Incredible. And seeing all this, it just naturally leads to the next big question, right? After living in the shadow of these massive natural wonders for thousands of years, how did we, as humans, try to match that grandeur? How did we attempt to build our own mountains? Well, that brings us perfectly into our second theme, the echoes of ancient worlds. Now we're going to look at the monuments built by the earliest civilizations, structures so ambitious, so enduring, that they honestly seem to defy time itself. The thing about these places is their mystery. It just hangs in the air. You've got the pyramids of Giza, these monumental tombs, basically, reaching for the afterlife. Then there's Stonehenge. The Mandarin name Zhuxizhen is super direct. It just means giant stone formation. It's this prehistoric circle, maybe a calendar. And of course, Chichen Itza, the Mayan pyramid perfectly aligned with the sun. We are still debating what they were all for, but man, their power to make you just stand there in awe, that's undeniable. And of course, watching over the pyramids at Giza, you have this timeless, iconic figure, the Great Sphinx. Body of a lion, head of a pharaoh. It's been the silent guardian there for more than 4,000 years. It's basically the physical form of all the mythology and power that made these ancient projects happen in the first place. Okay, so as these civilizations ballooned into full-blown empires, their buildings became symbols of just immense, almost unbelievable power. You've got the Roman Colosseum, this massive arena for public spectacle, the Great Wall of China, again, the Mandarin name, Changcheng, is straight to the point, the Long Wall. What a staggering feat of engineering. And then the terracotta warriors, an entire life-sized army buried with an emperor. I mean, talk about a statement of power that was meant to last forever. So you can see this evolution, right? From ancient rituals to these sprawling empires. And that leads us to the next logical question. As our societies got more and more complex, where did we start to centralize everything? Our culture, our art, and our power. And that's a perfect lead-in to our third section. Here, we're going to focus on the buildings that became the absolute nerve centers of nations and empires. We're talking about the great halls, the palaces, the institutions that really defined whole eras of history. This is a fantastic comparison because you have two totally different philosophies of power on display.
On one hand, you've got China's Forbidden City. It's this huge, walled-off complex designed to create mystique and literally separate the divine emperor from everyone else. But then you have Buckingham Palace in London, which is a very public-facing building. It's a residence, sure, but it's also an administrative hub, the backdrop for all these national ceremonies. So one is all about seclusion, and the other is all about presence. And it wasn't just about government. These places became the guardians of culture and faith, too. Take the Louvre in Paris. It started as a royal fortress and eventually became the world's largest art museum. Or Hagia Sophia in Turkey. It's been a cathedral, a mosque, and a museum. It's like you can feel the layers of history right there in its dome. And then the Kremlin in Moscow, that's basically a fortified city within a city, holding not just the government, but also priceless cultural and religious treasures.
So, okay, we've seen power in palaces and culture in museums. But then, technology starts to leap forward. New materials become available, and a whole new kind of ambition takes hold. The question became, how could we take that ambition and start to literally pierce the sky? And that launches us right into our final theme. Think of this as a lightning round of modern engineering marvels. This is where steel, glass, and pure human ingenuity all come together to completely redefine the city's skyline and blow up our ideas of what was even possible.
First up, of course, the Eiffel Tower. You know, when it was first built for the 1889 World's Fair, it was so radical. A lot of people absolutely hated it. They thought it was hideous. But this incredible lattice of iron completely changed the game for architecture and, well, became the symbol of Paris.
All right, next, let's jump over to Toronto and the CN Tower. For decades, this thing was the tallest freestanding structure in the world, and it was built for a super practical reason, broadcasting signals. But its sleek, almost futuristic design made it an instant icon. And to finish our trio of towers, we have Taipei 101. What's so amazing about this one is how it blends the old with the new. The design looks like a stalk of bamboo, which is a huge symbol of growth in Asian culture. But at the same time, it's packed with state-of-the-art tech to survive earthquakes and typhoons. Just brilliant.
But hey, modern marvels aren't all just about who's the tallest. It's also about form and imagination. The Sydney Opera House, right, with those soaring white shells, it has to be one of the most recognizable buildings on the planet. And then you have the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Antoni Gaudi's masterpiece has been under construction for over 140 years. It's just this incredible testament to one person's artistic and spiritual vision. So there you have it. From canyons carved by Mother Nature to the skyscrapers that totally redrew our skylines, these landmarks really do tell the story of our world. It's a story of awe, of power, of faith, and of this just relentless human ambition.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you look back at all this history, at all this incredible effort to build something that lasts, it makes you wonder, what are we building right now, today, that will still be on a list like this in 1,000 years? What's our legacy going to be? It's something to chew on for sure. Thanks so much for joining me for this.